All right, magic makers. If you've ever said to yourself, "Ugh, my metabolism, I just feel like it is just broken. I don't know what to do. It just feels stalled." This episode is for you because I want to challenge you about that thought right here. Your metabolism, especially if you're a lady over 40, your metabolism, it isn't broken. It's exhausted. Right? How many times have you come home from a long ass day and you're just exhausted and you just like pass out on your couch? That's what your metabolism it has been doing. And honestly, it's not a character flaw. It's been like years of getting really, really good at dieting. The average woman over 40 has gone on at least 30 diets. And some of the women that I work with, they're like, girl, I've been on a diet since I can remember, right? Since your preteens. And even when you probably like didn't think you should diet, all your friends were. So, you were counting your carrot sticks and celery sticks and all that other stuff and drinking your Crystal Light and your snack wells. And so most women I work with, they didn't fall off the wagon. They were on and off that wagon for decades. I'm raising my hand too. We were white knuckling, we were measuring, we were tracking, we were being good. And now your body's like, girl, we done. We so done. And so I want today to walk you through the four metabolic seasons that come out of my quiz. The restore, refine, reveal, rebuild. They're not labels, they're not boxes, but as context, these are like the biggest mistakes that I see women over 40 make was they try because they try to put the wrong goal in the wrong season. And you hear me talk about this all the time. I talk about, y'all busy. And we all have those times in our lives where we have a little bit more time, a little bit more space that we can go heads down. But I always see women who'll be like, oh my God, I gotta lose the weight. And I'm like, okay, what's going on in your life? Well, it's hockey season. Girl, then you're telling me that you're driving, I don't know, a hockey mom that doesn't get up at the butt crack of dawn to drive their kid to the rink, or super late night, or like, driving 400 hours to get to the rink because I don't think every town has a rink next door. So I'm always talking about let's us stop trying to force weight loss in a season that it's just not even possible for us to even think about anything other than, it could be a busy season at work. It could be, kids dance, baseball, basketball, whatever the heck your kid is into. But instead of blaming, I chose to try to ram something into this season that I don't already had little limited time. You blame yourself. "Ugh, it's all me. It's me. I suck. It's not me. It's not you, right? It's your timing." And so here's like the big first mindset shift that I'd love for you to have. That if dieting worked the way we were taught, we still wouldn't be doing it. Let that sink in. Right? If it worked, the biggest thing I see every year is the whole 30. Every year, someone like, I'm doing the whole 30. It's been, coming out of the holidays and I've just been eating a lot of sugar and shit and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to do the whole 30 for January. And I'm like, great, wonderful. But what happens on day 31? I'm always curious. You can't just go back to the way you were eating, right? And if eating the whole 30 way brings you joy, rock on with your bad self. But I'm not a big believer in these resets. I'm a bigger believer in let's find a way that you can eat forever, right? Because the fact that you're still stuck is proof that you're failing. It's proof that this strategy expired. You know, I had a client come to me last year and I said, okay, how long have you been eating like this? 20 years. For 20 years, she's been eating the same exact things. Her metabolism wasn't tired, it was bored. It was absolutely bored because she never challenged it. She ate the same shit for 20 years. So I'm going to say something that might make some of you, like, if you're driving, drive off the road. You can't diet forever. You can't push forever. And fat loss doesn't happen year round in a straight line, right? I wish that, like, it's just this kind of like this, for those guys who can't see the video, I'm dragging my hand straight down, right? Like it's like, down, 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 down. That's not how it works. I want to say weight loss isn't exactly like a Richter scale, But there are going to be times when the scale is going to go up a bit. And then there are going to be times that the scale goes down a bit. So the big thing is that you want to minimize the peaks and the troughs. And excuse me, one of my favorite tools, I believe they have it on Android now, but I know for sure it's definitely an iPhone. It's called Happy Scale, and it's one of my favorite tools because it shows you the ups and downs, and it especially if you're someone who is married to the scale. I'm pulling it up now, so I'm not lying to you when I'm talking about it. So I like it because it shows you, the trends, like what has been happening over the last 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, all time. And then you see like a chart, and I keep my chart at a year. And I can see that in the year, I had like a little bit of a Richter scale. That was me trying to find my maintenance. And it was like my body was just like, What's going on? What's happening?" And then it finally kind of started to settle. It started to settle in. But I like that because most people will just take one moment on the scale and then like be off to the oh shit races, right? So I know that you can't diet forever, and that because at some point, the white knuckling, like you let go, right? You're holding on so tightly, you have to let go, and that's not weakness, my friends. That's just biology being biology, and that's what it brings up. That's what the quiz is all about. And you're gonna get like four, you get out of four outcomes, and it'll help you to figure out like where are you right now. And let me walk you through all for the first four so that you understand like why, the why behind where you might land. And trust me, like this is all going to click. So when you take the quiz, you're going to land in four places. You're going to either find out that you need to restore, refine, reveal, or rebuild. None of them are better than the other. None of them means you're behind. It just simply means this is the first metabolic lever that you're going to pull. And this is where it gets fun because like most women think one thing, but their body is asking for something else, something completely different. Like showing up at a yoga class and you got your spin shoes on, right? Wrong tool, wrong time. So I want to fix that. I want to help you fix that. So let's start with restore because this is where most women are going to land. Even if you don't want to admit it, restore is for those women who's been doing, I'm eating pretty good, you're working out consistently, maybe tracking on and off, but you feel exhausted, flat, puffy, stuck, belly fat, and you're just like so pissed off that like nothing seems to work anymore. That was me, right? And if fat loss were the priority and you're like pissed that it's not happening, it's because our body is protecting us, right? It's resisting us. And what Restore does is that we need to first like love up on our metabolism, right? It needs more, not less. It needs more food, more recovery, more breathing room. And I know this is going to freak a lot of people out because when I walk clients through that, that's the first piece is that like, you might be one of those people who are like 1,200 calories is all that I need. Well, yeah, because you've adapted to it. The beauty about our body, the beauty and the curse about our body is that our bodies are highly adaptable. It will say, okay, it thinks we're back in the cave. It's the time of year when there's no food. Food is scarce. And I'm just going to slow down your metabolism so that I only burn just enough calories to what you're feeding me. So I've just adapted to it. So if you can easily tell me, like, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm not tired, I'm not this, because your body has adapted to it over the years, you know. And so that's adaptation. And so for most people, we've always been taught that eating more makes you gain weight. Resting more means laziness. But in this season, eating more or eating less is like I'm trying to floor the gas on my car and then my gas tank is empty, right? And if you're wondering, like, you're doing all the work, you're like, why isn't my body changing? That's probably it. It's probably that it needs a little bit more fuel on the tank in order for you to get the results that you're looking for. And, we all know, like, if you've revving your engine and you're going nowhere, Restore right here is about increasing intake sustainably. So it's not like going from 1200 to 2000. It's slowly increasing the dial, pulling back a little bit on the intensity. And I know that's really scary for a lot of people because, I was someone who worked out 7 days a week. And the first time I was told to have a rest day, it was like I had to have like one day rest day. And for many of you, you're like, I went to yoga or a spin class, right? So it was like I had to baby step my way back the working out 5 days a week. And it was like letting my nervous system feel like it's okay because I was always so used to being on the go that when I slowed down, my body was like, something is wrong. And it wasn't wrong. It was just like my body was always used to me always pushing the buzzer. And it took a bit, right? If you've been doing, like, I did it for 15 years. So if you've been doing it for at least 15 years, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And that's the one step that I really, really want you to take away. It's not going to be this overnight thing because I know that your body needs to chill. I know that your body needs a little time to like go from go from 60 to zero, right? We're not a car. I wish we were. We're not a car. But, what it would look like for some people is that, like, we're adding like 200 calories and we're swapping out, 2 hit days for a walk. And 200 calories, you're probably like, oh my God, 200 calories. If you think about it, it could be that maybe you add a half a banana to your protein shake, another 200, another weight. So that's like, say, that's a little bit. Then you add, an extra scoop of hummus. Um, then you have a couple of beans, right? So it's like these little small, I call them like adding accessories to your meals to like slowly get you up in that 200 calories. Like, is it revolutionary? Nope. Effective? Abso-freaking-lutely. And this isn't giving up. This is setting the stage so your body can actually start doing what you're asked for. Because when I bring that metabolism low, our body is like, and I've shared this several times. Our body, I want you to think about, like, we have all these systems. Like, think about your house, right? Your house has all these random systems working. Like, you got the electricity, you got the hot water heater, and you have your heating system, and you have your air conditioning system. So imagine if you didn't have enough money, right? So that's calories. If I don't have enough calories, certain systems can't run because I can't pay the bill. So maybe it's summertime and you're like, hey, we can't afford air conditioning. We can't afford to turn the air conditioning on. So it's going to be hotter. That's how your body is when you don't feed it enough. Certain systems aren't going to turn on or fire the way they should because it's a, calories are a valuable resource and you're not giving it enough resources. So you don't, in this stage, you don't fix the burnout by going harder. You fix it by giving the system a place to breathe. Give it strategic nutrients so that you can eventually get to a part where all your systems are like, oh, we're being fed, we're being nurtured, we can turn back on. The next one, metabolic toggle, is refine. And this is for the woman, she's not totally fried. She's living in maintenance mode. And now for some of you, maintenance mode feels like a dirty word. And, I was working with a client to get her to maintenance, and she's like, I don't think I'm good at maintenance. You're not good at maintenance because maintenance is boring. It feels uncomfortable because there's nothing radical happening here, right? Refined is for like you're eating 80%, 80% really healthy, 20% fun. You have like your a few non-negotiables in place that, I talk about non-negotiables. They're like the 1 to 3 things that, like, this is what you do. This is who you are. And it's not like you have to fight to do them. It's just like, hey, you know, I go for a walk every day at 3 o'clock. That's a non-negotiable for me. It's what I do. I drink a cup of coffee and then have a thing of water. It's just what I do. I like to have a little like Kim time before I go to bed. It's just what I do, right? It's that those are my non-negotiables. Those are the things that I know when I do those 3 things, I am set up for success for everything else. This woman also, she's no longer fears food or freaks out about calories. She can go to a social event and not feel like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my shit. She's like, all right, I'm going to a social event on Saturday. This is how it's going to happen. I've already made my decisions. I've made my choices. The end. Go to the event and have a good freaking time. And we know this isn't about gaining or losing. It is about, if this was a scale of 1 to 10, staying between a 5 and a 7, right? 1 and 10 are our extremes, right? We're either like restricting like nobody's business, or we're like, it's a party and I'm like, if it's not nailed down, it's going in my mouth. This is living between that 5 and 10 zone, so that if I did have something coming up, I could, swing back a little bit towards like the 4 5. Or if I was like, yeah, we're like, I can play a little bit higher if I wanted to put on a little bit more muscle. But like for me, it's like 5 to 7. I'm living right there and everything feels really good, right? She's not looking for another good food, bad food list. She's not trying to lose weight. She's just trying to live her life, right? That's the woman who is in this refined stage, like no longer a slave to calorie count, obsessing over macros or workouts, right? This is what I know. You don't need another plan. You need fewer decisions. And refinement, this is less about restriction and it's more about getting really tight on the boring basics. So, like, strength training, sleep, steps, stress management, and substance, aka protein, and eating as well as you possibly can. And I'm talking like 80%. And I know those are the boring basics. They don't sound sexy. Everyone thinks weight loss should be exciting. Weight loss should be four things: realistic. You can create a plan for it. You should be excited about what you're doing, right? If you're going to a spin class and you hate being on a bike, you're not going to stick with it, right? So you should be excited about what you're the process, but doesn't have to be like this is your entertainment. You should be able to make a plan for it in your life and be able to adjust that plan based on what season you might be in. If you're that mom who is in the thick of hockey or dance or baseball, we can make some tweaks to what your schedule looks like for as far as health and fitness. But then ultimately it has to be sustainable, right? Because we're not looking for this 6 week, 12 week thing. We're looking for like life thing. Like what kind of in 36 weeks am I still doing this? Maybe with some minor tweaks here and there, right? Because this is the unsexy stuff that works, right? The flashy stuff is what burns you right the bleep out. And most women skip this season or you struggle through this season because for many of you, you've only dieted and can really feel uncomfortable AF. Or it might just feel like this is simple. Like, yeah, girl, it is simple, right? The basics are what create momentum. And I was watching an interview with James Clear. If all of you guys know, James Clear is my spirit animal. James Clear wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he talks very much about being 1% better. And he talks about when you're 1% better, doing this boring shit, that's what creates momentum, right? So many of you say, I need discipline, I need motivation, I need willpower. No, you need momentum. And momentum comes with one small step. Because if you did one small thing and you're like, you were able to keep that one small thing up for like 30 days, you'd be like, oh, look at me, right? I think I shared with you. Um, Last October, I gave myself an outrageous goal. And my outrageous goal was I was going to walk for 15 minutes. And excuse me, I did that for one solid year. I'm still doing it. I did it for one solid year. I only missed it a handful of times. And the handful of times I missed my 15 minutes was I was traveling. One time it was snowing outside. And the other time it was like 3 degrees. Like, I am not trying to be the abominable snowman, but there were solid, valid reasons. But all the rest of the time, I put it in there. My This October, I did 5 minutes with my feet up against the wall. Did you see how like simple these things were? It wasn't like I'm gonna walk 10 miles. No, 15 minutes around my block. I set a timer for 7.5 minutes. And when that timer went off, I turned back. So I want you to think about those kind of things. Like, what are those small, little, boring ass things that you're like, that doesn't count? Yes, that's what's going to help to get you in momentum and stop relying on, thinking motivation is going to ring your doorbell, because it is not. The day motivation rings your doorbell, please take a picture and tell me all about it, because I can't wait. The next metabolic toggle we have is the reveal, right? This is the season everybody wants to be in. This is the season that most people think you should live in. And this is the fat loss, but this is fat loss with intention, right? And that's the shift most people miss. Most people only always most people think their body is always ready for fat loss. But reveal is for the woman who's built the consistency, fueled herself properly, lifted with purpose, and proven to her body that is now safe to let go of weight again. Hear that again. Your body needs to feel safe again. And if I've constantly thrown these extreme diets, lived in a small little bubble, I need to like prove to my body that I'm not going to beat the shit out of it again. And so now we can create a little bit of a gentle, controlled deficit. Like this, nothing extreme. We're not punishing or suffering. We're not trying to like crash diet for a Rubian cruise, right? The reveal isn't about trying to get it done as fast as possible. It is like, how do I do it as smart, as strategic as possible? And this is where fat loss becomes a byproduct, not a battle, right? So many of us, we sprint to the fat loss gate and then get pissed when the fat loss just like it absolutely stalls. And for most of you, this part right here, for most of us, most of the women I work with, they want more body composition change. And so what I mean by body composition, the scale isn't body composition. The scale only tells me how much gravity is pulling down on my body. That's what the scale tells me. But body composition is, I look in the mirror and I'm wearing a bathing suit. And I look and I'm like, do I have any muscle tone? What does my belly look like? What do my thighs look like? That's what I mean by body composition. And most of you want a body composition change, right? You want to not have, I don't know how many women have come to me and like, flabbed the thing underneath their arms. Like you want to not have that, right? You want to have some type of, you know, I love muscle, right? I've loved muscle forever, but I saw Terminator 2 and I was like, yes, Linda Hamilton, those arms. Angela Bassett and Tina Turner, I'm like burring it on. All right. So, but you're like, I just don't want things to jiggle and wiggle. Great, fabulous. That it comes from building muscle, right? And a lot of what you think is fat is undeveloped muscle, but we'll talk about that in the next phase. Right. So fat loss here, it becomes this byproduct and it's this little like short-lived season. When I'm working with women, I primarily put them here in for probably like 12 weeks, 16 at the most. And then we go back, we start to get back into our refinement phase, right? Because I have a client, Liza, and she is fabulous. She is fabulous living in this refined stage, right? She's able to go on vacation and come and enjoy herself and come back and she's within 1 to 2 pounds of what she left off of, right? And that's what I'm looking for you here. So it's like you go, you have this kind of like, we all have trips. So like, but it's like looking at your schedule here and knowing when the trip is. It isn't like calling me on May 1st and be like, hey, I'm going on vacation on the 25th. Good luck to you. Right. It's looking at your calendar in January. And for most of us, right? Like we're at the age that we know when we travel. Like I know for the most part, my husband and I would go away in February. And again, we usually do something, in September. It's like those two like times that we have our trips. So I plan accordingly, right? I map that out around that so that, I can know when I'm like, oh, my trip's coming up in February. So now I can start thinking back in December, like, okay, in December, I know I got this thing in February, so I got to start prepping for it versus on, February 1st, like, how do I like sprint to the finish line? And my God, if I see one of those posts, one of more of those posts, I'm gonna scream. I'm like, because the only way that's gonna happen is like you're just gonna lose a limb. It's the only way you're gonna lose 20 pounds in like 10 days. But I digress. So the reveal here is that this isn't the forever season. You can't live here forever. And that's the trap that many of us get stuck in. Like we screw up and then we go harder into this reveal phase. We try to like stay there as long as possible. And I'm going to tell you this, like maybe if you do have a weight loss goal, which is fine. So making this up. So say your goal is that you want to lose 20 pounds and maybe you lose the first 10 and you lose the first 10 and then you're like, I want to keep going to lose the next 10. But I'm going to say something a little controversial. But what if we stay with that 10? We put you back back up to maintenance, and then we put you into a build. And this is what we're going to talk about because I know that if you keep going, keep going, keep going, your body's going to be like, oh, she's dieting again. We know this story. And then clamp down on the weight loss. But if we got to like, the 12 to 16 weeks and maybe or maybe not you hit your goal, we kind of give a little bit more calorie to you so that your body is like, oh, okay, all right, she's not going to try to kill me, right? And then we get back into the fat loss phase. And I know that's a little bit of a uh, slower way to do it, but I've seen it work really, really well. Um, And, when your body is ready for fat loss, like that's when the body's right fully releases. But if it's not ready for fat loss, it's not going to release all that you want. And, I had a client, Katie, this was a few years ago. This is when I was still doing competition prep. And it was the last day of the show or the last show of the year. And she came in dead last and she like compared to everyone else on stage she had like she looked like olive oil, and I don't know if you know who olive oil is. I'll put it in the show notes. And I was like, all right, do you trust me? And she's like, yeah. And I said, all right, for the next year, so this was November, for the next year we are going heads down and we are going to build, and we are going to put so much muscle on your body, or as much muscle as we possibly can in a year on your body, so that when you step on the stage next year, you're going to look like you're going to bring a completely different physique to the stage. And she said, I trust you. And I said, we're going to put the gray sweatpants on, right? We're not going to look cute, but we're going to build. And she did. And we built like nobody's business. And she stepped on stage and she placed top 5, right? So that's blind trust. So Katie VZ, I adore you for that freaking blind fucking trust. So in this rebuild stage, right? This surprises so many people because rebuild is for the woman who wants to feel strong again, who wants muscle. Now, not to step on stage, right? That chapter of my life is closed. But for the woman who wants to change her shape, not just her weight. Hear that again. Change her shape, not just her weight. And I talked about that earlier, right? You want to look in the mirror and like your jeans, like you're not like your jeans aren't bulging. You want to look in the mirror and feel amazing in a bathing suit. I'm not talking being in a bikini. If I'm talking about being in a bathing suit and not feeling like you're going to be on the beach and you're like, how do I strategically cover myself up? Look, getting out of the shower and being like, hey girl, hey, right? Flirting with yourself, being like, I feel sexy for my partner, right? Muscle in this point isn't the side effect, it's the point. And here's what I mean, right? My parents live in Florida, and I'll go, and inevitably there'll be a brigade of wheelchairs waiting to pick people up off the airport when we land in West Palm. And I don't want to be that person. I do not want to be that person who needs that wheelchair waiting for me, right? And it's not that I'm not saying that to shame it. What I'm saying is that most of those people, they're under muscled and that they haven't done the things to make sure that they can do acts of daily living, right? It's like we've spent decades chasing weight loss instead of building strength, right? Muscle isn't about looking good in a tank top. I will take that byproduct. However, muscle is about carrying your own groceries. It's about climbing stairs without thinking twice about it. It's like getting up off the floor, playing with your kids or your grandkids. It's walking through the airport without shuffling, right? It's living independently at 75, 85, hell, 95, right? This is longevity work. This is freedom work. And that's the thing most people don't realize, right? Because I can't, I'm like, I'm going to diet my way to a wheelchair. I want to build strength so that I can be as independent as hell for as long as I possibly can. And for like I said earlier, what you think of flab, it's undeveloped muscle. You don't need to lose it. You need to build what's underneath it. So it's like I want you to think about if we are building a house and I just dropped the raw materials on your plot of land. Now I got to do something with it. That is what you have to do. And just as a byproduct of aging, after 35, you lose somewhere between 3 to 5% of your muscle mass every decade. And then that accelerates after 60. So if you're still on the fence, like if you should train strength train or not, this is my leg. Girl, what you waiting for? This is my moment for you to say it is possible for you to start kind of ebbing the tide of that muscle loss, right? So what I'm doing this winter because I have some time is that I'm doing a rebuild this winter, right? I want you to think about like a classic car is going for a glow up, right? I'm not stripping it down. I'm building it up, right? A rebuild focuses on eating enough to support the muscle, lifting progressively, not just moving weights around, not just finding some random workouts on the internet. And it's about building tissues that protect my metabolism for the long term. And this is where, your confidence comes back. Because like I know that I gained so much more confidence when I started really going to the gym. All right. So, God, this is over 20 years ago. Yeah, over like about 25 years ago was when I got really serious about working out. And it was the first time I like really set goals. And I was like, this is like, I just felt like, what I can I do? Right. And I want that for you. Right. Because rebuilding, it's like, we feel capable in our bodies again. We feel like, oh my God, like I just lifted that. Like me, I didn't ask for help. I picked up those big heavy plates and I put them on and I throw them on my back and I squatted the shit out of that. Right? That feels freaking amazing. And this is when aging starts to look really different. Like I want people to be like, "Oh, you're that old?" Yeah, girl. Because I pay attention. I do the work, right? I'm not just expecting it. I don't do it on and off. Like I find a pace, and I make peace with it. And that's, I had a coach say that to me like years ago. Like I had three things that coaches said to me that now really resonate with how I work out when I teach my clients. The first one is that you can go hard, you can go long, but you can't go hard for long. And at the time, I was going hard. Like I was just like, I would run into that brick wall, knock myself out, not learn my lesson, and then get back up and like sprint through the hole I made in that brick wall, just running towards the next brick wall. The second thing was the way you get it off is the way you keep it off. So if I was living in this little box, and if I wanted to live in that little box for the rest of my natural life, I could. But at some point, as I mentioned earlier, the white knuckling sucks ass. Sucks. And you just give up and then you binge. You're like, fuck this. And you binge. But I was sick of that, and at some point, we all have our breaking point, and I was sick of that. And I had to find my peace. The last one is pick a pace and make peace with it. And so many of you want to do something one time, nail it. And if you don't, this isn't for me. What else you got? You did it for a week. This is all I got until you work on this, right? We're not going to nail it. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. It's going to be ugly. It's going to feel uncomfortable as AF. But if you want to change, you have to make a change. And changes aren't always easy. You always aren't going to be like, the winner, right? There is no prize here. If there was a prize, I would push you aside, right? I wouldn't be giving you all these tips and tricks. I'd be pushing you aside and be like, bitch, get out of my way. And so here's what I know about rebuilding, right? Rebuilding often leads to better fat loss than dieting ever did because muscle is metabolically expensive. It requires the right amount of fuel to change its shape. And if you give muscle enough fuel, it gives your body a reason to trust you again. Your body's not going to be like, I want you to think about like have you ever played that little game with your if you had siblings and you'd be like, here, do you want a piece of candy or whatever? And then you would like pull it away. Here, pull it away, pull it away. And eventually, your brother or sister would be like, screw you, and like walk away. That's what we've been doing with our body when it comes to dieting. It's like we've been like giving it stuff and then like radically taking it away. So this, we're again, this is probably like a 12 to 16 week, maybe 20-week process that you're giving your body more food. And then we go, we start to slowly, strategically, but in a non-extreme way, pull it back just a touch. Start to like, I want you to think about like clay, right? Like if, or marble. Those people like uh, sculptors sculpt marble. I want you to think it's like that. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, I don't know what I am, like all of those sound like either a place I want to be, but maybe we start with where you are. And that's exactly what the quiz exists, right? It's not to put you on another plan. It's not to tell you to work harder. It's to help you to stop guessing, right? Because when you pick the right season, everything feels lighter. It feels more doable, way less dramatic. Your metabolism, my friend, is not broken. It's responding to what it's been given. And this quiz helps you decide what to give it next. So take it, be honest, and let's stop making this harder than it needs to be. All right, magic makers, I will talk soon and enjoy the rest of your day.